Well, it is a job that at one time he said he didn't want, but now former Governor Tim Kaine is moving forward with an effort to win a seat in the United States Senate. Kaine is vying to replace current Senator Jim Webb, who will not seek re-election. And Governor Kaine joins us now to talk more about his race for the Senate. Governor Kaine, welcome to First at 4.
Thank you, Ryan. Great to be with you today.
And let's first talk about this decision that you made to run. And you did say at one point that you weren't interested in running for the Senate. And it took you some time to come to that conclusion. Do you have the fire in your belly to win this seat? Because it's definitely going to be required in order to be victorious.
Yeah, Ryan, I never do anything unless I do it all in, and I'm all in to win this race. But you're right, it was a little bit of a surprise. I've had an interesting political career. I never thought I'd be in politics. I got mad at the city council one day, and then I ran, and I ended up serving 4 terms. I was on my way out of local politics when a good friend of mine, former Senator Emily Kirk, developed pancreatic cancer and had to drop out of a race for lieutenant governor, and so I was a surprise entrant into that race. And you're right, when I finished being governor, I felt like I'd run my last race. I was very confident and optimistic that Jim Webb would run again. When he announced that he wouldn't, my wife Ann and I spent 3 or 4 weeks really thinking about it and decided that for a variety of reasons, you know, we needed to do this. And it's a family effort. We're all behind it. And now that I'm in, I'm all in. I'm excited about it.
And you get into this campaign at what is definitely a crossroads for this country. One of the big fights on Capitol Hill right now is overspending and balancing the budget. You have obviously balanced a lot of budgets. It's a requirement when you're the governor of Virginia.
It's a good trait about state law that you have to, and we should do the same at the federal level.
But can you balance the budget at the federal government level without raising taxes in some respect? Can you do that responsibly?
Well, first, you can't just balance the budget like this. So we have a tradition at the state level of doing it every year, but we've allowed surpluses in some years, but mostly deficits to grow for a long time. It's going to take a while to get back to the flight path that works. And I think the effort that I'm supporting right now is the effort of the Gang of 6 in the Senate, a bipartisan effort to look at all options. And that would be dramatic reductions in expenses, but revenues as well. For example, filling in loopholes, not giving subsidies to oil companies. There are a whole series of things that you can do. And I think it's going to take ideas that both parties like and probably ideas that both parties don't like. But we'll only do it if we can get a bipartisan agreement. Democrats don't have the votes and Republicans don't either.
One thing you haven't had to deal much with over the course of your career is foreign policy, of course, and you're going to be replacing a man, if you win, who has extensive experience in foreign policy in Jim Webb. Where are you right now on how the administration has handled the situation in Libya? Do you think that the president has acted appropriately?
My sense is this. In Libya, what we found was a terrorist leader, who had committed acts of terrorism against the United States in the Lockerbie bombing, about ready to commit atrocities against his own people. After escalating sanctions, after a resolution and request by the United Nations, he wasn't backing down, and significant bloodshed was going to happen. With the support both of the UN Security Council and the Arab League, the United States stepped in a multilateral way to prevent bloodshed. And I do think that was the right thing to do, so long as it was multilateral. We shouldn't be doing this on our own, but with the support of the Arab League and the UN Security Council, I think it was appropriate.
But should the United States be taking the lead? Because there's been some criticism from Republicans that Mr. Obama has allowed other nations to take the lead on this.
My sense is this, Ryan, that we should always defend ourselves unilaterally. Whether anybody agrees with us, we should defend ourselves unilaterally. But when we're going into another nation on a humanitarian mission to prevent bloodshed, it is always important that we do it in tandem with other nations. We shouldn't be cowboying in on our own. And the fact in this case we went in with other nations. NATO is now taking the lead, which is the right strategy, I believe. It's not up to us to be the police force, but on a humanitarian mission like this, we should join with other nations.
All right, my last question for you. It looks as though the Republican candidate could be George Allen, who had this seat before. He had a faux pas, some would say, when he mentioned the word macaca and it was caught on tape. He's tried to atone for that over the past 6 years. If he is the Republican nominee, is that something that's going to be a part of your campaign, or do you think this is something we should put in the past?
I don't know yet who my opponent will be. I think you're right. Most people think that Senator Allen, George Allen, is my likely opponent. Look, we're both going to be judged on what we've done and what we've said, and that's fair. It's fair for voters to look at it that way.
But is it something you'll raise?
But I'm not running against anybody. My campaign is Kaine for Virginia, and I'm going to be talking about what I think we need to do. My simple motto is this: America's got challenges, Virginia has answers, and I'm going to be talking about a positive message of things Virginia can teach the nation.
All right, we have a long way to go, so I'm sure we'll talk to you about many of these issues in the future. Governor, thank you so much for being here.
Great, thanks, Ryan.
All right.